In Yaoundé's Grand Unity Palace, the air was heavy with ceremony but light on celebration. Cameroon's Paul Biya, at 92 years old, stood before the nation once again, sworn in for an 8th term as president. His face, marked by decades of rule, reflected a man who has outlasted almost every African leader of his generation. Biya has governed since 1982 through the Cold War, the rise of multi-party politics, and countless regional crises. But as he raised his hand to take the oath this week, the moment felt less like renewal and more like repetition. Outside the palace, protests and anger filled the streets, a reminder that beneath the calm surface of official ceremonies, Cameroon's political system is under immense strain. The latest election, held on October 12th, was one of the most disputed in the country's recent history. Official results gave Biya a victory with 53.66% of the vote, while his main challenger, Issa Chiroma, received 35.19%. Yet the opposition and civil society groups have rejected those figures, claiming that the vote was marred by intimidation, restricted campaigning, and widespread irregularities. Many polling stations in the Anglophone regions were either closed or heavily guarded, discouraging turnout. As results were announced, protests broke out in major cities, including Douala and Bamenda. The United Nations later confirmed that at least 48 civilians were killed during demonstrations as security forces opened fire on protesters. The government has not released its own death toll, nor has it commented on the allegations of violence, deepening suspicion of an official cover-up. Biya, in his inauguration address, acknowledged the difficulties facing Cameroon but placed the blame squarely on what he called irresponsible elements, a reference to opposition figures and members of the diaspora who have criticized his government. To many Cameroonians, his words sounded detached from reality. Instead of offering reconciliation, Biya's message focused on discipline and order. He spoke of challenges, but without concrete solutions for the deep frustration that millions now feel. For many, his presidency has come to symbolize endurance without evolution. His speech reminded observers that while Biya's government continues to emphasize unity, it has done little to address the growing divide between the state and its citizens. The result is a nation stuck in time, led by a man who refuses to step aside, even as the country's social fabric weakens. Paul Biya's rule has long been characterized by control and careful balance. Over the decades, he has built an extensive network of loyalists across the army, the ruling party, and the civil service. This structure has ensured that challenges to his power rarely succeed. His strongest base of support comes from the military, particularly the Rapid Intervention Battalion, an elite force known for its loyalty to the presidency. Political opponents are often weakened by co-optation or internal division, while state resources are used to maintain the loyalty of local elites. This system has kept Biya in power for more than 40 years, but it has also frozen political competition and discouraged reform. Cameroon today is considered one of Central Africa's most stable countries, but also one of its least democratic. The timing of this disputed election is particularly sensitive. Cameroon is still struggling with a long-running conflict in its Anglophone regions, where separatists are fighting to create an independent state called Ambazonia. Since 2017, the conflict has killed thousands and displaced over 700,000 people. Entire towns have been burned and schools destroyed. The government's heavy-handed approach, marked by mass arrests and reports of human rights abuses, has drawn international criticism. Meanwhile, the separatist groups themselves have carried out kidnappings and attacks on civilians. With this unrest already tearing at the country's unity, the recent post-election violence adds another layer of instability. Observers fear that if the government continues to ignore grievances, these conflicts could spread further, threatening the fragile balance Biya has maintained for decades. Opposition leader Issa Bakari's defiance added an unexpected twist to the election. Once a member of Biya's cabinet, Bakari resigned earlier this year and positioned himself as a reformist alternative. After the vote, he declared that he, not Biya, was the rightful winner, claiming support from within the army. He even suggested that certain soldiers loyal to him had ensured his safety, hinting at divisions within the security establishment. Whether this claim was true or an attempt to project strength remains unclear, but it highlighted growing unease about Cameroon's future leadership. Biya's health and succession plans are a constant subject of speculation. Many within his own party, the Cameroon People's Democratic Movement, are quietly preparing for the inevitable transition, but no one dares to say it aloud. The generational gap in Cameroon's politics has never been wider. Over 60% of the population is under the age of 30, yet the country's leadership is made up almost entirely of men in their 70s, 80s, and 90s. Young Cameroonians face rising unemployment, corruption, and a lack of opportunity. Many believe that the same old political elite has little interest in addressing their problems. This frustration is increasingly expressed online, where youth movements and diaspora activists have turned social media into platforms of resistance. The post-election protests reflected this generational divide. Not only a rejection of Biya's continued rule, but of a political system that feels locked in the past. Unless there is real political reform, this youth discontent could become the next major challenge to Biya's rule. International reactions to Biya's re-election have been cautious. France, Cameroon's former colonial power, congratulated Biya but urged inclusive dialogue to ease tensions. The African Union and United Nations have called for restraint and transparency, while human rights organizations have demanded investigations into the protest killings. For now, Biya's government remains defiant, confident in its control of the army and bureaucracy, yet analysts warn that this control may not last forever. As economic pressures mount and political divisions widen, even long-standing authoritarian systems can unravel. Biya's 8th term may mark not the continuation of stability, but the beginning of its slow decline. The ceremony that crowned the world's oldest leader may, in time, be remembered not for the power it displayed, but for the cracks it revealed, in a country where one man's legacy has come to define the fate of millions.